today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina, and I am a transformational life coach, and I love helping people shift their thinking and creating something awesome.
And each week here on the podcast, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. I think in terms of our listeners and viewers, you folks out there, this is probably your second or third episode in the new year of 2023. This is the first year we're recording an episode in 2023. So Stephanie, you had the jumping off point for the first episode we're recording in the new year, so I'll let you kick it off.
Okay, sure. I think this is what it was supposed to be. We didn't have friend time today, and so we're just like kicking it in. So I feel like we're gonna do a little friend time in this episode. So I have a new place, holla! And it's quite the allowing story and a little example of resistance.
So for those that might have been a little hard for people to understand, you have a new place, apartment,
I have
place to live.
Is this what you were talking about that you wanted, that I said that you said that Stephanie has a jumping off point for us, or were you thinking of something else?
No,
Collin,
you had said before that you wanted to just jump right in today and skip friend time because of a schedule thing. So I just assumed that you knew where you wanted to start.
Oh no, I didn't.
Okay. Well, here, let me. So you called me when you got into your new home this week.
Okay, so I'll preface this with saying, for those of you who haven't been following us for very long, it's your first time, I recently went through a very long divorce. I needed to be out of my home on December 31st of 2022. And the last time we recorded, one of the last times we recorded, I remember it was December 18th, and I'm like, and I don't know where I'm going because I hadn't found a place yet. I said, however, my hope is that when we record next time, because we had done several episodes so that we could take 3 weeks in a row off for the holidays, that I'll be in my new place when we record. So here, is this going to be episode 3 or 4? I think this is going to be.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think this
will be episode 4. And today is January 8th. And I was completely moved out on December 31st. I found a place to live. I'm renting a room from a very wonderful woman in the neighborhood I wanted, Bay Park. Holla, thank you, higher power.
But let's wind the clock back, Stephanie.
Okay, Collin.
To a few days before you found your place.
Boy.
And you were not in a place of bliss and calm and allowing. And let's let people know what that was like.
So I really like my granddaughter's dog Nibbles, Nibbles, call him Nibs. I love having him. He's been coming over every month for like a week or two. And so I had on my list, I wanted someone to accept pets. And so I'm literally like maybe 2-3 weeks in of needing to leave. And I'm like, Steph, you need to take that off the table now. You just need a nice, soft place to land. And so I'm on all the apps of like Furnished Finders and Hot Pads. Thank you, Lisa, for telling me about Hot Pads, et cetera, et cetera.
I didn't know Hot Pads was an app to help you find a place. I thought that was something else, but
okay, yes. And it's a wonderful, and so it was,
I love it when you miss my sexual jokes, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying, I purposely
I think you always catch them. It's whether or not you're going to acknowledge them.
I'm not acknowledging them.
All right, go
ahead. It was, oh God. Okay, so it was December 18th. I still hadn't had it. So it was literally after we did our last recording for the episode. And I was, not knowing, and I'm looking at places, on all the different apps I have. And I see this one on Hot Pads, and it's in Bay Park. And take a moment here.
How hot was this pad?
So I liked it was it was in my price range, at the high end, but I could swing it. And so I messaged her, and then continued to look at other places. And then Monday, I go to see Dr. Chris, my chiropractor, who she's been on when we were doing guest appearances. She's amazing. And she's like, "Hi, Stephanie." She goes, I come in, she goes, "Have you found a place?" I'm like, "No, Dr. Chris, I don't know what I'm going to do." She's like, "Stephanie, no." She's like, "Okay." She goes, "No, you can't have any doubt." I'm like, "But Dr. Chris, I have a ton of doubt." She goes, "No, just kick it out. No doubt." And I'm like, I knew, like, I can't do that. Like, I had so many resistant thoughts, doubt, fear, how, blah, blah, blah. And I'm doing the footwork and nothing's showing up. And she's like, "This is what I want you to do." And she's telling me how she found her new office, which is amazing. And I go, "Okay, Dr. Chris," I go, "but first I need to um tap out all my doubt." And she goes, "Okay." And so she goes, "You are one of the most powerful manifestors I know." So it was so great. She was like almost my coach, my pep talk. She like put a fire underneath me, and I left feeling hopeful, and was like, "Okay." And I had to go to the post office to send off some stuff for my health insurance. And I sat in my car in the parking lot, and I looked at the ad that I had messaged the woman the night before, and there was a phone number. So I called her, and we had a nice conversation. We FaceTimed. I liked her. She liked me. And so she's like, "You can come over today." And I said, "I can't. I'm driving up to Temecula to see my family." I go, "How about Tuesday?" And she's like, "Okay." So on my drive up to Temecula, it's a good 55 minutes with no traffic. I start tapping, like, even though I have fear and doubt, blah, 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 I'm just going at it. And I let it spew. Like if I was talking to my bestie and telling her all my doubts and fears. And I got to a really neutral place and went and saw it on Tuesday. I liked it. I liked her. I met her family, her daughter, and was there, and her daughters. And she gave me an application. I needed to download it. Did that the next day. Filled it out. Sent it to her. Didn't hear anything from her on Thursday, and I'm like, fudge. And I was like, "Steph, you need to keep looking. You don't know whether you have this place or not, and time's running out." So I looked at another place on Thursday night that was in La Jolla Village Square. The place was nice, but it was a definite no for me. And so I just had a lot of worry and fear. And Friday morning, I did this meditation. Sometimes for my meditations, what I'll do is I'll listen to the little clips. I really like the subscription on YouTube. It's called All One, All Love. They have just little like 5, 6 minute clips from Abraham's workshops. And sometimes I'll just play them and just kind of go zen and listen. And there was one, and I swear it was like higher power, God, spirit talking to me. And I was like, "Okay, Steph, you'll either, if this place is for you, you'll get it. And if you don't get it, it's not for you. You'll find something else." I was in this really peaceful, accepting place. And it was about 7 in the morning. I got done meditating, and I look at my phone, and Laura, she's my new landlady slash roomie, said, "Hi, Stephanie, I'd like to offer you the room. Can you come by today and drop a deposit off?" And I was like, "Yes!" Like, over the mountain with joy. Like all this relief just fell upon me, like, oh, I have a place to stay now, a soft place to land. And I can get that off the table. Now I can just focus on packing and moving out. And I was like 8:45 p.m. I pulled up on December 31st, unpacked a few things into the garage, and then all of a sudden fireworks started shooting off at SeaWorld. And I'm gonna cry. I just stood there and watched them. The people next door, they were having a party, and they came out on their balcony and were watching. And for me, it felt like higher power, God, my inner being was like, "Yay!" Woo! That I had moved out. That part of my life was most 99% over. And here you are in your new place on the day that you needed to be. And tomorrow morning, you get to wake up, I'm going to cry, with your head, take it off the pillow in your new place and start the next chapter of your life. And so, yeah, I had to let go of some of those resistant thoughts because I was blocking what I had asked for and that higher power had given me. And I was just not letting it in.
That's a great story, Stephanie, and it's a great segue to talk about the sponsor for this episode, which is HotPads.com. HotPads is on a mission to make the internet a better place to find your place. Launched in November of 2005, HotPads is a map-based rentals and real estate marketplace. It allows you to search for housing quickly and easily using an interactive map, and listings are displayed at their addresses, allowing you to conduct a real-time location-based search. Through the innovative state-of-the-art graphical interface, you can click on individual property listings clearly shown by color-coded building icons. Find your new place now at hotpads.com.
I love you, Collin. One of the freaking many reasons why I adore you. Dude, that was badass. We have our first promotional. Now I can click off when
We
I
did
do
it
the
for
back-end
free.
stuff.
We did it for free.
All right. Well, so we have
due.
to contact them in order to. I may need to contact them because I'm like, hey,
It's
y'all.
good though.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be a good sponsor. It's like, you know,
Yeah, Hot Pads sponsorship.
it's a site and an app that allows you to use the art of allowing to help you find your place.
Yeah. So I talked to you, what was it, a couple of days maybe after I landed? I think. Oh, it was Sunday.
Yeah.
So the day after, yeah, the very
Yeah.
next day. And I was walking around the neighborhood, and there's a ton of beautiful spots walking around the neighborhood where the view is just like, wow, 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 of Mission Bay and the ocean, SeaWorld, Soledad Mountain, just everything, the bay. Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a nice upper middle class neighborhood, super chill. And I was just walking around going, wow, God, wow, higher power, wow, okay. Yeah, I've loved this neighborhood for quite a long time. It's adjacent to mine, which is in Claremont. And yeah, it's interesting because my life has done a bit of an upgrade and downgrade. But as someone said to me before, you're just in transition. And for my next, the next chapter. And I have loved being a homeowner, and I absolutely will be again. That is one of my greatest intentions, along with having the relationship that I've put in my vortex.
So when we talked on the phone, you were talking to me about how you mentioned something really interesting, which and something else kind of slightly different occurred to me, which I also thought was interesting. But the thing you mentioned was because I asked you, because I have this thing now that happens to me pretty regularly where I am hyper aware in a moment that like I do a podcast where we talk every week about the art of allowing and the law of attraction, and yet in the moment of my life, I'm aware that I am blocking, things I want from coming into my life because I am stuck in resistant thoughts and or beliefs and or feelings. And I asked you, like, because you were talking about how before you went to Dr. Chris and before you got into that really great state of just ease and calm and allowing, you were freaking out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Dr. Chris had said to you is like, Stephanie, I believe the quote is, you're a fucking awesome allower. So that can be a double-edged sword in the sense that like if you are really vividly making these movies in your head of all these like negative outcomes, and I think you mentioned that it's sort of something I think a lot of people could relate to if they're looking for a new place. You were thinking about, well, what if I can't find a place and I have to sleep on friends' couches for a long time? Or
oh yeah,
what if I can't find a place and I end up having to take an Airbnb for like 3 weeks and then another Airbnb for 2 weeks, and while I keep looking and all that.
Yeah, I was totally creating what I didn't want in my imagination.
That's the thing. It's like if you're an amazing allower,
I can be an amazing blocker of all that I've asked for.
And you can be an amazing allower of things you don't want to flow.
Yeah. Or just pausing what I have created big time. I'm kind of doing that with my next relationship, I noticed, and I'm like, I'm gonna do some work on that as well. However, and I heard it was so okay. So the one thing that when you started sharing about that I thought you were going to talk about, that we talked about on that Sunday, was I said, you've often said to me, well, Stephanie, like you create a podcast about this whole
Yeah.
resistant things. And don't you ever, when you're in that moment of resistance, don't you ever think, oh, I did this podcast about like negative thinking and resistance. And I'm like, no, Collin, I go, you think that all the time. I go, but I never, when I'm in resistance, think that. And then the next day, I wake up
Yes.
because I had a ton of resistance about something in particular that I was walking through in my new place. And I was like, man, and I mix up my superfoods and I turn on the TV and put on YouTube and I log into my account. And this has never happened before. And on the TV screen, there was like Chris Stapleton, because I love his music. And right next to that image was your and my face for the podcast. And my mouth fell open and I was like, what? And I'm like, I'm watching that one. I'm listening to that one. And I had a ton of resistance prior to that moment. And I started playing it, continued to make my breakfast, and I'd come in and out watching it. And I tell you, within a few minutes, I started feeling a little bit better. I could feel my negative emotions just softening and kind of falling into the background. I was laughing, I was smiling. And before the episode was over, I was like, I had did a 180. I was like completely like I was in a great mood. I was in a really, and I just had to laugh. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like God was like, you're not going to remember to do this like Collin does. However, I'm going to physically put into your way a reminder that you do a podcast on this exact thing and you need help right now. It was so awesome. I loved it.
That's hilarious. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it happens to me pretty regularly now. And I mean, often it happens to me when I'm in conversation with other friends of mine, other than yourself, about something. Like somebody will ask me, like, how are things going? And I'm like, oh, they're going pretty well. And then we'll get on to a subject where I'm like frustrated about something that's not happening the way I want or whatever. And they'll ask me something like, what are you going to do about that? And I'm like, well, I do a podcast every week where I tell people that the thing they ought to do is blah, blah, blah. So I guess I'll do that. But it is great. I mean, it's a helpful reminder for me, but it does sort of show that was something that, yeah, when you shared with me on that phone call, it was interesting because I think you said something like, no, when I get into a place of fear, I go way past being able to remember the
It doesn't
podcast or
even
anything
come
like
into my
that.
mind at
Yeah.
any point. It really doesn't.
It's
I
just,
don't know why it doesn't.
yeah.
And I love hearing you say it. You're
Yeah.
like, well, Collin, you do this podcast that, and I just love hearing you talk about it, but that never enters my mind when I get
Yeah.
into that, negative space and I'm worrying or fearful or whatever. But I tell you that experience that next day, I was like, oh my God, it was like higher power went bam, girl,
Yeah.
here.
Well,
And
I think
my mood shifted
the thing that's interesting about
quickly.
that to me is, and I think I'm assuming a lot of people could relate to that, is that when we get into making that movie in our minds of all the negative outcomes that could come out of the
Oy
situation,
vey,
and
I
then
know.
this sort of cycle back and forth of like that creates fear, which then creates more movies, and
Mhm.
then we get more scared of those movies. It's the cycle. It's like you forget about, it's really like your brain sort of takes over and your brain forgets about, it's very difficult to access,
Yeah, there's no
these
way
thoughts,
because yeah.
which is why I don't think, I'm not sure I ever thought this, but I'm always concerned that someone will like watch The Secret once, the film The Secret once, or watch one, YouTube video of an Abraham Hicks workshop and be like, oh, this is so easy, because it is. Like the
Yeah,
process
it's
is
simple.
easy,
It's really simple.
but they'll try it once, it won't work, and they'll be like, that doesn't work, and it's like, oh, well, part of the issue is if you're like most people, you've had programming about the fear and the negative beliefs and the lack and the deprivation and there's not enough and somebody else can get my piece of the pie, all that stuff. Money doesn't grow on trees, all that stuff. And you, at least what I've had to do, and what I am going to have to continue to do, is to just continue to teach myself this and reinforce it over and over and
Yeah.
over and over
Practice.
and over. And it was one of the number one reasons why I became a client of your life coaching, because I was like, I need to have, you know, once a week or once every 2 weeks, I need
Consistent.
an hour
Yeah.
where my brain gets nothing but this information,
Yeah.
and I'll need it
Reinforcement.
again a week later or a week and a half later,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because the programming of the other stuff was so intense for so long when I was younger, that it's this
And then it's
continual.
just habitual too.
Yeah,
Like it's, it's like I always consider it like that knee-jerk reaction. Like something
yeah,
happens and then on my mind immediately goes to dot dot dot. But I heard something, I was listening to an Abraham clip the other day, and they were talking about, yeah, your mind, your human mind looks for trouble, looks for
yeah,
problems. And
yeah,
so that is a hindrance right there. Like,
yeah,
and so it does take effort to choose a better feeling thought, or to look for a better feeling subject, or whatever it may be, just to help myself feel better, because I'm naturally tuned as a human to look for a problem. What was it? It was your mind is created to find problems and fix them,
yeah.
you know so that being said, you
It's
said
really
so
that
much.
whenever I hear that phrase, when you're a nail, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really helpful phrase for me, because it's like, oh yeah, you need, one of the keys to the art of allowing is perspective, is to keep your
Mm,
perspective as wide as possible. And what the
mm,
brain tends to do to get us to focus and solve problems is to narrow things, you know. And that's the sort of thing. It's like when I mean, I've gone through exactly what you went through looking for apartments in the past, of feeling, I mean, when I found my current place several years ago, I was on a 30-day deadline because of the situation I was leaving, which I had not, was not due to me, and was very uncomfortable. um, and that time pressure was very triggering, and that's what my brain kept trying to do, was narrow it to, like, you got to do this, or it won't work out, and then if that doesn't work out, then you have all these nightmare scenarios.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what I kept getting encouraged by my friends on the phone to do was to, even though there's a time limit, like, sort of set that aside and widen the opportunities, get your mind to expand, like, oh, there's lots of apartments out there, there's lots of people who are trying to rent an apartment in their building right now. It's like, I live in Los Angeles, it's a large city, there's always people leaving, there's always people, vacating apartments. And it was effort, I had to put some effort in, but that
Absolutely.
really helped me get out of
Maneuver.
that
Yeah.
thing, because it's kind of like, if you're, if you have, I mean, this is a spur of the moment terrible metaphor, but if you have, like, if you're traveling on a highway, and then there's forks, and you see, like, one, if you go to the left, it's this little tunnel that goes down into a underground thing, and the other road leads to all sorts of different roads you can turn anywhere. It's like, if you make that left turn, it's going to be tough after that. Really, you're going to have to find a way to turn around and come back. But
Yeah.
if you just veer to the right, then you've got all these possibilities in front of you,
Mm,
and
nice. Very nice. Yeah.
it's challenging, because I think the other thing we talked about on that phone call is, you're not just wrestling with, you are wrestling with beliefs, you're wrestling with habits, but you're also wrestling with the feelings, like what you expressed to me was, you had fear, like, physically in your body. And it's all well and good for us to say here, like, oh, when you're looking for a new home, just, like, think happy thoughts, and, be calm and relaxed. But, like, a lot
It's
of times, we're going to just accidentally or unintentionally, our body's going to start freaking out, and it's really challenging to battle that, in
yeah,
addition
it
to the
was
thoughts and beliefs.
it was really stressful. And I had a mentor say to me, she's like, you know, how can you make this fun and easy while you're walking, and make it a
Mm,
joyful experiences versus a stressful experience?
yeah, that's great.
And I really like that. I had put it in my phone and my alarms to remind me of that multiple times a day, to like, okay, how am I going to make this fun? And so, one of the things that I do for the art of allowing is I'll listen to stand-up comedy.
Mm, yeah.
I'll watch a funny movie, or I'll listen to music because I love music, and I'll dance. So I really was doing my best to be mindful to do those things to help me relieve some of the stress and the pressure that I was putting on myself, because I was making it more than
Mm,
I needed to be with my thoughts.
yeah.
But also, and not knowing, I think that's the other thing. And I think the whole art of allowing is like how how to become someone who just knows, like is just has a more relaxed attitude about my life,
Yeah.
and knowing that it's all coming eventually, and that I don't
Yeah.
have to know how. I just need to trust that it will, in this however miraculous way. And even when I get what I want, it's not going to be perfect, and I
Hmm.
won't be done, because there will be contrast, because that's just kind of how the game is set up, so
Hmm.
that I will naturally ask for more, and then I'll always be expanding.
Hmm.
And that is because even though I got a lot, I got some of what I wanted, there's still more that I don't have with this soft
Hmm.
place landing, and I just need to remember it is a soft place for me to land. I got exactly what I wanted. So, I feel comfortable here. I feel safe. I love the environment. I like, the woman that I'm living with. Um, there's so much, and yet there's so much more I want, and just relaxing and trusting that that will come as well in time. I'm just not ready yet.
The other thing that, both Abraham Hicks, which if this is the first time you're hearing about Abraham Hicks, please Google. Um, uh, but Abraham Hicks and yourself has told me many times is talking about how one of the other things the brain does in those sorts of situations is like, this is all up to me to power towards the result I want just with my own will and my own efforts. And that is a total distortion of spiritually and energetically what has already happened, because long before that day when you were looking for the place, you had a desire for your new comfortable next home. And
Uh-huh.
as you and Abraham both say really well, um, at that moment, which was way before this
Yeah,
search, it
way.
was done, it was created, it was in your vortex, it was sort of spiritually waiting for you. So the power, as Abraham says, and I like this phrase, the power that creates worlds, like
Yeah.
literally whatever you view the higher power that creates, that created all of the galaxies and stars and planets and animals and humans and fish and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
everything.
oceans and mountains. That power not only is working with you, but has already created what you need. So there's a little bit of truth to it's really up to you, but it's not about you powering towards this thing that isn't there with your will and your efforts. It's you relaxing and getting your energy and
Aligned.
alignment
Yeah.
in the sense so that you can just allow in what's already what the biggest
What's
power in the
already
universe has
created.
already done.
Yeah.
You know,
Because it's already done, and
yeah,
I don't need to know how. I'm going to be shown how.
yeah,
And that's where it gets, that's where it can be challenging sometimes, because
yeah,
for me, I think it's probably my ego, I don't know. I want to know how. If I don't know how, then how, you know what I mean? And that's not for me to know. I don't even need to know that. I need to trust that it's already done. So
well,
um
congratulations on being in your new
thank
home.
you.
That's
Yay!
awesome for allowing in your new awesome home. We're so happy that you've joined us today. Remember that we are posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning at this point. We hope you got something out of today's discussion. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do for us to help support the pod. Like us, follow us, subscribe to us, leave a comment, write us a review. All of that helps other people find us as well, which is great. All of our social media links and our email address are in the description in the doodly doo down in YouTube. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station.